morning, everyone. And congratulations to the Pine Street Inn class of 2025. Thank you so much. Lindia is not just a force of nature and a leader who has reshaped the city of Boston, but really someone who is a national force and someone whose leadership has reshaped what it means all across the country for people that have talent. It might seem simple and natural for the folks in this or under this tent today, but the groundbreaking idea that the solution to homelessness is a home is something that Pine Street Inn really has stood up for and completely changed how we think about it, how we do that, and I want to thank you for your impact. Woo! To Lauren and to all of the board members, thank you for what you do day in and day out. We're so grateful for the wide range of programs that you all undertake here and the many ways that you make our city even stronger and even more healthy for everyone. To all my friends in elected office, our City Council President, Madam President Lucy, City Councilor John Fitzgerald, State Representative John Moran, and one of today's awardees, congratulations to State Representative Sam Montano. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for standing up always for Boston to be a home for everyone. She got some props before, but I'm going to just double, triple, 1,000 times to Sheila Dillon and her leadership. Sheila is the best. Compassion and many other issues, and I'm so thankful that she is alongside you and our entire team. Thank you to the incredible Joanne Chang, who has always believed in Boston, who has been an inspiration for me for a very long time. Thank you for not just making today's event delicious with the catering, but also for making our city so much sweeter with the jobs, the opportunities, and all that Flower Bakery represents. I know Kathy of the Boston Senate Coalition couldn't be here today, but I want to also congratulate her on winning the Good Neighbor Award for all the leadership that Kathy has done. So we've had a couple huge gusts of wind already. We don't blow away to Oz together. This is the kind of city that Boston is and always will be. The people right here inside this tent. Boston's the city where our leaders show up to celebrate our community, to mark milestones with the people that we serve, and our community members are stepping up every day, raising your hands whenever you see something that needs to be done or a way where we can take care of each other and our neighbors. To this year's graduates, the class of 2025, I want to make one thing clear from the very beginning. Today's celebration isn't about something that you've been given, but about what you have earned. We're here to celebrate your incredibly hard work and the scale and brilliance of your accomplishments. We're here to celebrate all that it took for you to get here, the discipline, the determination, the sacrifice. And we're here to celebrate who you are. To all the families and friends in the audience as well, I want to congratulate you all also, because it's your support, your love, your belief in these amazing graduates that have been key ingredients in their success and being able to be here in this moment. So thank you to everyone for being a part of these incredible graduates' journey. You all are part of the living history of Boston. We hear a lot about history these days because we're living in such crazy times, I'll call it. Every time you turn on the news and see on the TV the headlines that are happening or look and hear what's happening in the community, and always people say, this is unprecedented. There are things that are happening now that have never happened before. And what is our role in all of that? You are sitting squarely in the city that has helped define and shape history for a very long time, and you are taking up the next steps in that history. This year, you might have heard, marks the 250th anniversary of several really important moments in Boston history, moments that ended up shaping this country's future. The most famous one might be Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. You've all heard the story, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea, and the lanterns hanging in the Old North Church, and how Paul Revere started in the North End, went to Charlestown, rode across the Charles, got on a horse, galloped to Lexington, and alerted everyone that the British were coming and people needed to get ready. We celebrated that 250-year anniversary earlier a couple weeks ago outside the Old North Church. And it was a celebration of bravery, for sure. Paul Revere's willingness to push forward in the face of uncertainty. Lauren and I were talking about uncertainty before and how much that defines this moment as well. But 250 years ago, Paul Revere had no idea what might happen to him as he crossed that river. Whether someone might find him and capture him, or what would happen to him if he was found. He didn't know what was going to be set into motion in the chain of events that he was embarking on, or what kind of future he was riding into on that horse that day. It takes courage to move forward not knowing what lies ahead. And earlier this week, we celebrated a moment that maybe a few less people know about, but it's just as important in American history and Boston history. This last Tuesday was 250 years since the Battle of Bunker Hill in Charlestown. And it's unique because it might be the only battle that we really celebrate and lift up where we didn't actually win it. Technically, the Battle of Bunker Hill was a military defeat. Nearly 500 Bostonians lost their lives. Everyday residents who decided that their lives were worth giving for a chance at a future where their children were free. Families lost fathers and uncles, brothers and sons, and eventually they retreated. The British captured the hill and burned Charlestown to the ground out of revenge. So why do we celebrate it? Why are we having a reenactment of it tomorrow with all day to remember what happened there? Because Bunker Hill was a battle that we lost in a war that we won. And how we fought in that battle, how we bounced back, told the world that the best parts of our story in Boston and in America still were ahead of us. That for Boston and our country, there were brighter days in our future, and we were going to fight as hard as we could to get to them. The colonists that survived that battle that day were battered and bruised. They lost family and friends, and they were forced to retreat. They were grieving and hurt. But what the world saw was an empire pushed to its limit by a band of merchants and farmers, everyday people who refused to back down. And soon the tide turned. Over the next 6 months, the American colonists would go on to capture Montreal and win decisive battles in Virginia and South Carolina. And less than a year later, the British were kicked out of Boston altogether. Paul Revere's ride is a story about courage in the face of uncertainty. Bunker Hill is a story about courage in the face of defeat. It takes courage to move forward, not knowing if you might get knocked down. And it takes even more courage when you've already been knocked down to get up when you know how it feels like to fall and just keep going. Every one of you is proof of what's possible if you get up and just keep going, if you choose to keep fighting. I know some of you, in the midst of all of the hard work you were putting in with these programs, were caring for parents who were struggling with sickness or needed help. And that when they passed, you had nowhere to go because your name wasn't on the lease. Some of you grappled with mental health and addiction, and more than one of you know what it means to fall. But even more than that, every single one of you know what it feels like to get up, keep fighting, and to reach the success that we are celebrating here with you today. Congratulations again. Each and every one of our graduates, all of you today, found a way to make it to this moment, to overcome whatever odds stood in your way, to believe in yourselves, to invest in yourselves, to support each other, and find a way forward. So, in closing, I'll just give one more reflection on what we could learn from 250 years ago. Because we're seeing so much history in Boston, and of course we're celebrating that we were the first to step up and fight for our country's freedom, and we have a lot more fighting to go today. But I want to just remind us that back then, the people who were in the middle of the battle, the colonists, didn't know what we know today. They didn't know that they would inspire a global movement for freedom that would reach nations all around the world. They weren't thinking about 250 years into the future. They were thinking about right then, what was right in front of them, the people and the community they loved in that moment. They were thinking about the right thing to do for themselves and their families, and they dedicated themselves to doing that next right thing. So for those of you who are still trying to figure out what comes next, remember how you got here to this milestone and this moment.
Yeah.
Taking it one day at a time, showing up 5 days a week, giving your all to the thing right in front of you, keeping your commitment to yourself, to the program, supporting each other, and making sure that we keep moving forward. Every action you take, every promise you keep, every truth you speak, it all adds up day by day by day, and it all matters. So in addition to saying congratulations, I want to say thank you. Thank you for investing in yourselves and our communities. Thank you for making it possible for every resident that you nourish with the food that you prepare, every visitor who you support because of the spaces you make beautiful, to feel like Boston is a home for everyone. You're getting our whole city one step closer to that goal every single day. And we know here in Boston that all that we do is connected. We know that when our residents and families do well, we all do well. When our economy grows, our neighborhoods are safer, our communities are stronger, we all do well. And that's why we're so proud to have worked with the Pine Street Inn to develop more than 270 units of permanent supportive housing in the last 2 years alone, to join at the ribbon cutting on more than 200 units at the Lindia in Jamaica Plain, named after you know who. With 140 of those units designated for residents who were formerly experiencing homelessness. And it's why we fought so hard to keep and hold on to that $48 million of federal funding that Boston has been promised and owed from the federal government to continue the critical work we do here today and all across the city. We are going to keep fighting and keep moving forward in partnership with organizations like the Pine Street Inn and so many in our community to connect more residents to programs like this one. So thank you. Thank you for your courage, for your belief in yourselves. Thank you for moving forward in the face of uncertainty, for getting back up and never giving up. Thank you for making Boston your home, and thank you especially for helping us make Boston a better home for everyone. Congratulations again.